Hi guys, welcome to this session in Microsoft Excel. In this module, I want to step you through some of the basic fundamentals of Excel just to get you going. And what I'm going to do is create a small little budget sheet to introduce some of the basic features. But before I do that, I just want to talk about what you look at when you open Excel. So this is what's called a spreadsheet, and you can see the name sheet 1 down the bottom there, and you've got a little plus next to it. If you click on that, sheet 2, and you can have as many sheets as your computer memory will allow. So there's quite a lot of information you can store in an Excel spreadsheet. If you want to name it, you can double click on it so it goes bold like that and just call it whatever you want. You can also click off that. If I right click on this one, you've got the options in here on the right mouse button to change the color of this tab if you so wish. I'll go blue. So I've made that one blue. It only shows the blue when you click off it. When you're on it, it's sort of faded out slightly. Now where the cursor is at the top here is called a cell. All these rectangles are called cells. Now to find where you are in a spreadsheet, you basically refer to the column and the row intersection. So that cell there, if I just color that in yellow, that cell there is C5, and it tells you in the top left hand corner, which is called the name box, where you are. So if I click away, now I'm in D3. If I click on the top, I'm in A1. Now if you highlight the whole column, that's all the cells in that column highlighted. And in Excel, there are over 1 million cells, 1 million rows going down. And going across, if I highlight the whole row, there's over 16,000 columns going across on one sheet. So it's a huge program. Now, most basic users don't use anywhere near that amount of space. Now, I'm going to get rid of this. Now, two ways of getting rid of this. I can click on it, go back up to the little paint pot tool and go no fill, which will get rid of it. Or I can click above it and get the little black cross in the bottom corner and pull over it, and it just replaces it. So let's get some typing done, and then you can see how it all works. First thing I'm going to do is type MON in cell B2. Now, I don't want to be typing Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Excel's intuitive to know that if you've typed MON, if I get the little black cross in the bottom right corner, so there's a few different crosses here. Look, there's a big white cross. That's for selecting an area. Then there's another big black cross. That's for moving a cell. So I'll just move that back. But the one that's used the most, I would suggest, other than when you're selecting, is this bottom right hand corner where you get this smaller black cross sitting on that little square there. If you do that and drag column F in this case, you can see it dropping the days of the week in as I go across. If I kept going, you can see that. I'm going to come back to Friday though. So it puts the days of the week in for you. Now that's called a custom list. Now I want some categories down here, so I'm going to type car, gas, bills, water, electric, and food. So just some simple stuff. And I'll put total at the bottom there. So I'm going to add this up, and I'll have total at the end also over there. Now, one of the things that I think people find a bit strange with Excel is when you format something. So if I put my name in there, Steve, if I click onto Steve, and up on the top here, you've got some formatting tools, bold, for example. That's made that bold, italic, underlined, change the font color to red. All of that is applied to that cell and that cell only. If I click out of that and type my name again, it's back to the default setting, which in this version of Excel is that. So if you wanted Steve red underlined bold to be on all the cells, you'd have to, or a selection of cells, you'd have to highlight a chunk of cells. Or if you click on this little triangle to the left of the letter A, you can select the whole sheet. And then if I clicked on bold now, everything on this sheet would go bold. I'll take it off or off like that. So it's only one single cell or a selection of cells that you format. It's not automatically going to do the whole document. Now I'm going to wipe that off by just pulling that little black cross down. I want to do a title. The title is going to be weekly budget. Weekly budget. Now I want this to be merged and centered across the top, so I need to highlight it with this white cross across the top, and then on the home tab again, you've got this merge and center button, which I'm going to click. Basically makes that whole selection into one cell and then centers it within that. If you just click merge and center without highlighting anything other than one cell, it just does the center bit like that. So it's the same as doing that. I'll just knock that back left. So you can see that you just select a range and then merge it into one. Now I want to do a bit of formatting here. So if I highlight this area, I want to put borders on it. So if I drop this little arrow down, you've got some series of options in here, different border styles, left border, right border, top, bottom. I'm going to go for this one, all borders. So let's put all borders on there. And then I want to color this area in. So I'm just going to highlight the area I want this to apply to, and I'm going to select orange, like so. Now, let me just do that again for a second. When you highlight an area and change the color, you notice the first cell looks slightly different to this. Is because these are still selected. So a lot of people get a bit worried about that, thinking they haven't picked the right color. But it's when you click off it, it will show you the right color. Now, to put some data in here, you can do it like this. What you don't want to be doing in Excel is manually typing. Let's say I want to say £10 for every day of the week I've spent on my car. I can type 10, get the little black cross and pull it over to Friday, and it will put that in for me. If I do undo, so key command for undo, if you make a mistake, is Control key down and Z. I could also have done this, highlight that space, and then did Control and the R key, which means fill to the right. So either way, you can do that, but you still have to highlight it. Now, if I wanted to go 10, 11, 12, if I try that on the next line, obviously when I pull that across, it's going to do the same as above. It's just going to go 10, 10, 10. Now, in Google Sheets and LibreOffice Calc, two of the spreadsheet software packages, that would go 11, 12, 13 as you pull it. But in Excel, it doesn't. And if you want it to do that, you have to hold your Control key down while you're pulling that over, and then it will do the sequence for you like so. Now, that was a step of one with the Control key down. If I wanted that to step by a bigger number than that, I have to do it like this. If I go 10, 15, there's a step of 5 there. I'm highlighting that. So that's the step. I pick up the little black cross on the 15, and I take it over like that, and it increments like so. Now, there is another way of doing that as well, and we're using the fill series option, but that's what I want to do, a small table like this. Now, the rest of it, let's say you want to have 10 for all of these cells. I'm just going to type 10. And then what you can do is click on it, pull it over. Don't click off it, just get the little black cross on the whole row in this case, and then pull it down, and it will fill all of those cells in with 10. You can't go diagonal, you have to either go across and let go and then down, or down and let go and across, whichever way. You can't go diagonal. Now, if I want all of these figures to be in pounds, I need to just highlight that area. Up on the ribbon again, I'm still on the home tab. You've got some number formats here. This little button is for counting. If I click on that, it will put the pound signs in there. If you want a different currency style, you can drop the arrow down. You've got US dollars, euros, and then more accounting styles in there. And you can basically fill your boots looking through that list of different currencies. Cancel that off. Now, if I want to add this up, there's a couple of ways of doing this. So there's some figures. I get where I want the answer to be. And on the home, still on the home tab, on the right hand side, you've got the sum, also sum button. I'm going to click on that. And it's grabbed the list that it thinks I want to add up. And in this case, it is correct. Now, this thing across the top, this white bar, is called the formula bar. And this is where I recommend you sit rather than, see, that's a duplicate. It looks the same, but you can get yourself in a bit of a mess if you start editing things down here. Up there, you're less likely to make a mistake. But I like that. So you can either press enter, or what I prefer people to do is to click the tick. When you press enter, you just come down a cell, then you've got to go back up a cell, and then you're pulling that over, right over to the end. And Excel's intuitive enough to know that if you pulled it across and it's looking at column B, you must want to look at column C, column D, etc. So that's quite a cool feature. Same again, let's go for the row totals. checking that list, that cell reference, that's okay. Ticking that. Now, instead of pulling that down, I've got the little black cross and I'm going to double click it down and it will stop when it hits something. So it's hit that and it's stopped. That's what I want. So that's one way of doing the sum function. But if I just delete that off, get rid of all of that. There is actually a key command for the sum function. There's nearly 500 functions in Excel, but only one has a key command at the minute. And that is the sum function. So I could have done Alt equals, and then it just drops that in. Now, if I undo that, I could also have just clicked the sum button and that would have done it as well. Same thing. So if you're not too keen on using key commands, you can still get that feature by using the sum button up there. So now we've got a little budget sheet where we've got some figures and any of these figures changing. So if I change that to 200, this will pick it up. That's changed, and so is the grand total at the end. Now down the bottom in Excel, if you highlight some data, so if I highlight that list, it gives you some ready calculator. If you think it's saying what the total is there, 550, which is just a little check for yourself that the formula is correct. And if I highlight this row, that'll say 550 as well. So that is the check figure. That added up and that added up. Either way, it's going to be the same figure. So that's available at the bottom. Notice it's not there now because I've just clicked off it. I'm not highlighting more than one cell. If I highlight a few, you can see it's giving you whatever that is that I've selected. Now, there are other functions in Excel. I've said there's nearly 500. If you wanted to add extra functions, there's something you have to be aware of. So if I go for the average function, so this is the one that I think people get wrong quite a lot. So to work out an average in maths, you would look at how many categories there are. You'd add up the total and divide by the categories. So it'd be 250 divided by 6, and you'd get the right answer. But the problem with that is you're going to get inaccurate results if you start inserting rows. So what I want to do is just demonstrate that. So I'll put the word average twice. Now I don't need to type it. I was going to do that. I can just pull that down and it'll copy it down. So I'll do the average in maths first. So I'll just go equals. You do equals. I want that total divided by 6 categories. So that should give me the average. If I tick that, so that's the average. And then I can pull that across all the way over. Now, the average function is a bit more dynamic than that. Now, if I go across to the little arrow to the right of the AutoSum button, there's a list, a short list with a link to all the other functions, which, by the way, are sitting on the Formulas tab. If I go for average there, what it's doing now is grabbing the list that it can see, which is including the total and the average sum I've just done. So I don't want it to come all the way down there. I just want it to come down to be 8. So I need to get rid of that 0 and that 1 and put 8 there. And that is where you should really edit formulas at the top there. B3 to B8. Now, some of you might have used a bit of Excel before and thinking, well, you can just highlight this and it will do it. Yeah, but if it's 10,000 rows, you're not going to highlight it. You shouldn't be highlighting it anyhow. You should just be doing the formula at the top. So I've got the same figure there, look. I'm going to pull that across. Everything looks cool. Happy teddy bears. So you say to yourself, what's the difference? The difference is this. If I insert a row to add an extra category, so I'll do that. And this is the quickest way to insert a row. So if I right click on the number 6 and go insert, because I've highlighted a whole row, Excel's going to assume I want to insert a whole row. So it does. And then if I put in there and go loans, and as soon as I add a figure, so I'll go 44, and then we're getting a different average look. That is not correct anymore because that is saying divide by 6, and it now should be divide by 7. And if that was 10,000 rows deep, remember, and if you didn't do this formula, somebody else had done it, are you going to remember to go down to row 10,000 and change that by to 10,001? That's why I think that's not the best example, even though you do see that a lot in spreadsheets. And it is okay if you're not intending to insert rows or columns. But if you are intending to insert rows or columns, problem. So that is still correct. This one is not correct. So I'm going to delete that row. I'm highlighting the whole row, right click, delete, and then that gets rid of that. Now I don't need this one. Highlight the whole row, right click, delete, get rid of that. And the same would apply for a column. If you highlight the whole column, right click, delete, it would delete that column, which I'm not going to do. Now, if you want to move a column, let's say this order is not correct, what you can do is you can basically highlight it You see this little green line around the column? So if I get this big black cross, like so, let's say I want to pull this bills category below water, I drag it down. Now, if I hold my shift key, you'll see a line, a single line. Now, if I let go of the mouse, that's where it's going to move to. I've just replaced it. And if I want to do that below electric, in fact, I put it to the near the top, so it's slightly different because these are all tens. Well, it's changed there. There's a step by. You can see it's definitely changed. So it's definitely moved. But I'll just do it again. So you get the large black cross, shift key, drag, let go when you see the single line, and that's where it'll go. It just swaps places. And the same would apply to the columns if you wanted to do that. So that's quite a neat feature if your categories are not in the right order. Now you might also notice that I haven't got the borders on this bottom bit, which is on the top bit. So what I can do with that is a neat little feature. If I click on there, this little paintbrush format painter copies the format. So it won't copy the formula, the 250 as a figure. If I click on that, it will copy the format, which is in this case just pounds and borders. So now that's put the borders on. So if I do that again with this yellow cell, I'll click on that. And so that yellow cell is orange and pounds. I'll just click there. Now, if I type a figure, it will automatically be in pounds, like so. So that's what the format painter does. If you double click it, it stays on. So now when I click, wherever I click, I'm putting that format on until I click that off, and then it's gone. Now, that's just a demonstration there. If I want to get rid of that, you can highlight those columns, right click, so a mouse is staying up there, right click, delete. Now, it doesn't actually delete the columns, it just resets them. It's like clearing the contents because they're still there. Look, you can still see them. Now, I want to quickly finish off by talking about dates. If I click into cell H1, I'm going to do a key command, which is the key command for today's date, which is control semicolon. That will give you today's date, as you can see there. Now, if I click into a different cell, if you want the time, the current time, and it's a time stamp and a date stamp, if you do Control Shift and semicolon, that will put the time in there, so it's 10:14. Now on dates, if I just pull that down, so you've got a list, and I'm going to color it in as well, orange, so you can see it. It doesn't. I didn't have to do a step value. Whereas I said there, I had to use the control key to get it to increment by 1. I didn't have to do that with a date. It automatically incremented by 1 day. However, if I wanted that to increment by 7 days, I need to just do the step. So I'm changing that to the 30th, and then I can either press enter there or tick it. I'll tick it. So there's a 7-day gap there. Highlight those two, pull that down, and I get the 7-day gap. So if somebody says to you, you need to do a spreadsheet for the whole year every Monday, you just find out the first Monday and then add 7 days to it, and then you can pull that across like so. Now, something you've got to be aware of in Excel is when you delete data. So I'm going to click on that cell. You don't really use your backspace key if you want to delete a list. So I want to delete this list. If I use my backspace key, it only does the top one. So that's not the way to do it. Use your delete key. So I'm going to press delete on the keyboard and I've got rid of all that data. But what I haven't got rid of is the orange and also the format date. Now in this drop down list here, you've got some other formats. Every cell, all these white cells, when you first open an Excel spreadsheet, are set to general. If you click on some of these buttons here, you're basically applying these formats. So we did accounting for this area. So if I drop that down, I could have come in there and done that as well. So common features are there, and then you can come into here and you can also go into more number formats, which takes you back to where it was before when we were accounting, but you've got all these other formats in there. Now this box, format cells that came up there, I'm going to do the key command for that. Control 1 is the key command for format cells. It's really useful to know that as you get into Excel, because it's not just numbers, it's all this other stuff as well that you've got in there that you can have a look at in your leisure. So I'll just close that off. You can also get into that via these little arrows, that one there, that one there, that one there. If I click on that one, it comes back into that and it comes onto that tab. So if I clicked on that one, it would come onto alignment. But control 1 is the thing to remember. Now, what I'm trying to say here is if this has been deleted, so it's just blank, forget the orange for a minute. In fact, I will get rid of the orange so it's not there. And I can do it like this. Look, I'll get a blank cell at the bottom, just wipe it up. So it's I need to put it to date though, so I'll clear that off back to general. So let's put it to date. So it's been left as date. If somebody comes along on this spreadsheet that's been used, say, back and forward emailed, and types 123, that's going to change to a date because that's what was there before. There was a date there before. So when you press delete or even backspace, you do not delete the format, you're just deleting the data. So over time, a spreadsheet can have lots of different formats as opposed to just the general one. So if I delete that and then I want one in there, it's got £1 because pound was the format there. Let's put it back to 10 for now. It's remembering the format. It's not the end of the world though. All you have to do is if it changes format and you're not expecting it, you just put it back to general and then it would show that. But if I just go 1 and get the little control key and pull that down to get a list, you'll see what happens here. Look. There's a set of numbers. If I put all of these to date, short date, 1st of January 1900, 2nd of January 1900, and so on. That's what those numbers mean. So at the top, if I do Control semicolon, which is the key command for today, so that says the 23rd. If I pull that down, so they're sequential dates. I put that all back to general. You see the number? So it started on the 1st of January 1900, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and it's got to that date, to that number, should I say? 4, 5, 4, 6, 6. And then 6, 7, 6, 8, 6, 9, and the next day would be another number there. So to the computer, dates are just numbers. That's all you need to know. That means you can do calculations on dates, and there's lots of date functions you can use. Just going to delete those off. Now I've clicked into that cell. It's custom. I'm deleting it. I'm going to get rid of it and put it onto general. Now you don't have to do this, guys, but everybody would love you if you did. Every time you delete something, you put it back to general. It's very, very tidy. But you don't have to. Other people can do that. Another issue you might have with formatting is somebody could do the key command like so, and then somebody might go 21 little dash 8, or not 8, let's do August, Aug dash 24. So that's now a different date format. And then somebody might go March 24. That's a different date style, if you like. So if that was happening for me and that was coming down a column where people have just typed random dates, that would get slightly irritating for me, and it looks really bad when you print it off. They're all dates. What you should do is highlight the whole column and select or force the date to be that short date, and then they're all the same, and you've got consistency. You can do that very quickly like that, like you saw there, even on columns that have got lots of different date types. What is not a date, and it depends on your age, 21 full stop, 2 full stop. See, that's not a date. Now, I'm a million years old. When I went to school, that's how you type dates. But that if you type in a date in Excel, it's not seeing that as a date. It's seeing that as text. So you just have to be careful about that. Let's get rid of all of these. Delete. Okay, so that's all I want to go through on this little session. Next session, I'll build it up a bit and do a few more things. But that should get you started with some basic stuff with Excel. Hopefully it's been of use. Thank you for your time. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll catch you on the next one.